Good morning, Husker fans. Welcome back to the Husker Big Red YouTube channel. I'm Chris Peterson, and joining me as always for this podcast is Danny Gillette, and we are back for another episode here today. We're going to preview the Pinstripe Bowl on Saturday, react to some of the latest transfer portal commitments for Nebraska with Andrew Marshall and Dane Key, talk about a trophy brought home by the Nebraska basketball team, and much more. Before we get into that, Danny, how are you doing on this, not Boxing Day, but 2 days after Christmas?
I'm doing well. I'm a little tired from the Diamond Head Classic and from Christmas merriment, but I'm doing well. A lot of news. It was nice to get. I was going to say it was nice to get a little bit of a break over the Christmas holiday from the news because while I did take a break, Matt Rule and the coaching staff and the recruiting did not take a break.
Yeah, Matt Rule never seems to take a break on the recruiting trail. So, say what you will about the man. He's done a great job in that aspect of coaching, which I mean is pretty darn important. So yeah, I guess let's start there. We'll get to the Pinstripe Bowl here in a second, but to catch everybody up on what's happened since our last episode, basically Nebraska's gotten two huge commitments. The first came on Christmas Eve day with Dane Key, so we kind of had a couple of early Christmas presents for Nebraska fans. So Dane Key, the receiver from Kentucky. Now this guy ranked 10th overall in the transfer portal, according to the 24/7 Sports rankings, the number 6 wide receiver, a ton of production, had over 700 yards last season. I think he had like 1,800 yards for his career. Just a guy who's an explosive playmaker. Go watch the highlights. I mean, this guy just makes plays all over the field. So Nebraska gets him on Christmas Eve. Then on Christmas Day, they get the 6'1" cornerback from Idaho, Andrew Marshall, return specialist. He's returned a punt and a kickoff return for a touchdown. Has 8 pass breakups over the last 2 seasons. No interceptions, but this is a guy that first team all Big Sky Conference, and that's one of the better leagues out in the FCS. So another huge addition, and 2 guys I think that will come in and start right away. But what are your reactions to the commitments of Dane Key and Andrew Marshall?
Well, first, when I think of Andrew Marshall, I think of his dynamic returning ability, and that's something that Nebraska's needed for quite some time. And the fact that he can provide tremendous corner depth is also a huge bonus. When you look at how this year kind of played out, injuries and from Tommy Hill's plantar fasciitis to Bly Hill not being available and things like that, depth at the corner position, really hampered this team at points. So getting a guy like Marshall, one of the best transfer portal quarterbacks in the country, was a huge addition. Now, Dane Key, I mean, he is such an electric playmaker. He's a dynamic playmaker. He reunites with his wide receiver coach at Kentucky and Da'Keil Shorts, so there's some familiarity there as well. And, when you talk about playmakers and guys that can make things happen after the catch, Key is your guy. And, now you have Hunter and you have Key to help bring along some of these freshmen, Mills and Mosey. And for the record, I don't think there'll be much bringing along needed, but having Key in there really elevates the wide receiver room. And I was trying to, predict starting lineups at the wide receiver spot the other day, and man, there's just so many names that we could use.
Yeah, it's going to be it's going to be an interesting battle for how that works out. But I think the top 3 guys are going to be Dane Key, Ja'Cory Barney, and Isaiah Hunter. And I love that, Dane Key, 6'3", 210 pounds, man. Like I love that about him. And I mean, from his freshman year, maybe it wasn't his freshman year. I don't know if he redshirted or not. I'm just going off the stats, but his first season playing, 37 receptions, 519 yards, 6 touchdowns, had a 55-yard long, had a 58-yard long in 2023, 42 receptions, 636 yards, 15 yards per catch, 6 touchdowns. So he's just come out and produced 3 500-yard seasons for an SEC team. So I mean, that's really high level production. And you're bringing in 2 guys with over. He had over 700 yards. Hunter had over 500 yards. Barney caught over 50 passes last year. And I know lots of them were like screeny and yada, yada. And he only averaged like 9 yards per reception. But I mean, that's 3 guys that caught over 40 passes who had over basically about 500 yards coming back for this team. That's a lot of production, and they're explosive too. So I think, we were really excited about last year's wide receiver core. Well, this one, I feel like is going to just blows that one out of the water.
And I give a lot of credit to Matt Rule. He's a coach that prides himself on developing players and, recruiting kids out of high school. And he's been a little hesitant to embrace the transfer portal at times, but he's really embraced it this offseason. And I give him credit in kind of not changing his style, but embracing the transfer portal a little bit more and recognizing that Nebraska needs impact playmakers right away.
And they've got plenty of those, like with Andrew Marshall. I think he will come in and start right away.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Across from Sayer Wright. I think Dane Key and Hunter will start right away at wide receiver. Williams Nawerny. I someday will learn how to pronounce that name. So sorry, but he will be starting edge, I believe, for us.
We'll know the name pretty soon, I think.
Yeah. Dason, well, maybe if Missouri put the pronunciation instead of the link to his NIL page, that would be helpful. But that's
sign
fine.
of the times, sign of the times. That is,
yeah. Dason McCullough. I mean, that's 6 guys right there. Who are going to come in and start for you. And then you've also got, Jalen George, I think, who's going to come in and be a contributor.
Mm-hmm.
Jack McAllister. I'm blanking on the long snapper's name. Kevin Gallick. It's hard to kind of keep all these guys straight, but I mean, they made a lot of, impact additions, a lot of guys that are going to come in and start. And then we talked about this a little bit, but I do like some of the other guys too, like Gabe Moore, Justin Rhett. They have ability, they have opportunities. And I think Justin Rhett, will fit in very well. And, kind of reminds me of Deshaun Singleton, a guy that's got a lot of athleticism, can run and hit, just needs a little more refinement and also just needs a chance to play. Sometimes at a place like Georgia, it's just, we saw that like with MJ Sherman, came over here and had a productive career, didn't play very much at Georgia. So maybe Justin Rhett can do some of those similar things. But I think that they've done a great job of getting proven players and then taking chances on some of those guys who have a lot of upside for being in the portal.
Yeah. And, when you look at the balance of this transfer portal class, they've addressed needs on both the offensive and defensive side of the football. I mean, you talk about a guy like, for example, Dasan McCullough. I'm really excited about him, and how young this upcoming linebacker group is, his veteran presence will be welcome. And, I am really excited about Kevin Gallick. I mean, I know long snapper's not a sexy position, but we needed one desperately. And, Nebraska's been really able to attack the transfer portal. And it seems like whenever a prediction from one of the experts comes in, a commitment soon follows. So Nebraska's not wasting any time. And I think that's a credit to, Phil Simpson and some of the guys that they've brought in on the coaching staff. And they've really been aggressive in recruiting, and they've hit the ground running. So that's a shout out to not only Matt Rule, but the rest of the coaching staff as well.
Yeah, and the 1890 initiative, I think, has done a good job on the NIL side of things. Nebraska has, not been playing second fiddle on the NIL side of it. I mean, even there was reports from Sean Callahan that they actually had a higher offer for Isaiah World, the guy who went to Oregon. So, I mean, if you're outbidding Oregon, you're doing right. And they're in a battle for that Washington State tackle right now with Michigan. And Michigan right now is paying as much as anybody. So in terms of the NIL side of it, Nebraska's right where it needs to be. And before we move on to the Pinstripe Bowl, let's take a look at there's still obviously transfer portal needs that exist. I see the comments from fans. We're talking about offensive line constantly, and they are right. Nebraska does need a couple, though. I mean, Ben Scott's leaving at center. I think there's a chance that Justin Evan-Jenkins will bump over there, but then that opens up a guard spot. You've got Bryce Benhart leaving, and frankly, left tackle was not the best last year. So you could potentially use an upgrade there. I know there's plenty of young offensive linemen kind of coming up through the pipeline, but even Matt Rule said it, ideally those guys will be playing in their third year, not their second. So if some guys like Grant Bricks or Preston Tamua are going to play, they'd have to kind of accelerate that timeline. So what do you think about picking up offensive linemen in the portal? How important is that? Or what other needs are you looking at from a positional basis?
I think picking up offensive line is important. I don't think it's as big a need as some fans are stressing. I would feel comfortable, honestly. And we talked about this with other positions like the linebacker group. I would feel comfortable testing the freshmen like Grant Bricks, Preston Tamua. I know you don't necessarily want to try to throw them in the starting lineup, and if you don't have to, but we're at the point where I would feel comfortable with them kind of taking on a bigger role. I mean, I would like to see one more running back. I do think Saturday is going to be a chance for Quentin Ives, even though I think he's going to be third overall in the running back rotation. If Quentin Ives plays well on Saturday, for example, then maybe we don't need one. But ideally, I would like one more running back just because, we saw 2 years ago, I think it was in September when, all the guys got hurt and then the depth got really thin. So you can never have too many running backs. But other than that, besides offensive line and maybe, a depth running back or something like that, I'm pretty happy with this class overall.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with it too. I think it depends what their defensive front is going to be. I still would like to get a nose tackle, but I know that's hard. Like offensive line, it's like, yeah, everybody wants an offensive tackle, but that's the thing. Everybody wants one. So, that's just hard to get those types of players. We remember that a couple years ago when they missed on the guy who went to Oklahoma and ended up with Jacob Hood. And Jacob Hood,
Walter Rouse?
Yeah, Walter Rouse, yep. And so it's like that could be what happens again this year. Hopefully not. There are still going to be, as we were talking about, different windows. So every team that's in a bowl game, 5 days after that bowl game, players have until 5 days after to enter the portal. So Nebraska players have 5 days after Saturday to enter the portal. Playoff teams have 5 days after their season ends to enter the transfer portal. So there will be other guys kind of trickling in here over the next month. There was a guy from Illinois who just entered yesterday. I think his name is Zy Chrysler, 6'6", 350 pounds. I'd like to see Nebraska get involved there. He's a guy that's played right tackle and right guard, started the last 3 years for Illinois. So to me, that would be a perfect type of guy to get in here. If you can't get the guy from Washington State, just get somebody who's been experienced. And I just think whether it would be a guy that could swing maybe and play guard and tackle, I think would be ideal. But the biggest thing I see is they need one proven pass protector for Bryce Benhart. But at the end of the day, if they don't get it, Bricks and Tamu and some of those guys are going to have to step up, and at least they have the pedigree to do that.
The future is now, I think we're going to see at some positions. And I saw Vincent Shavers wearing a black jersey in a picture the other day. I don't know if you saw that as well. So I'm wondering if it's just for the bowl game, I'm assuming. But, hey, that means, if you're getting a black jersey, even just for a bowl game, that means you're going to be a big part of the future. So that excites me a little bit. Actually, not a little bit, a lot of it. That excites me.
Well, and we'll switch to the Pinstripe Bowl because I think there's a lot of things to be excited about. But yeah, Vincent Shavers. But I mentioned this the other day when you're looking at the depth chart for the Pinstripe Bowl. There's a lot of players. The majority of those players are like freshmen, sophomores, underclassmen. I mean, I think there's like 13 seniors playing in this game out of the top 52 guys on the roster, or on the roster for this game. So the majority of the players that are coming back or that are going to be here, there's 51 players on the offensive or defensive depth chart, not counting special teams, because a lot of those are duplicates. 13 seniors, 18 of those guys are freshmen or redshirt freshmen. So there are a ton of players who are going to get opportunities that we haven't even seen in the two deep. Caleb Benning, Ramir Stewart, Keanu Davis. Well, we've seen him, but like Mario Buford, some of those guys, Mason Goldman maybe could be out there. So those are some of the guys I'm watching. Quentin Ives, like you mentioned. But then, McGahee, Shavers, some of these guys who played a lot, Keanu Davis, Riley Van Poppel, how are they going to, hold up in with a larger role? That's what I want to see, because I think they're all going to have, big roles to play next season.
I was just looking up at the depth chart for this Pinstripe Bowl, and I'm looking at some of the names right now. I mean, you look at, Jalen Lloyd is taking Isaiah Nayer's spot. You have a guy like Quentin Ives, like we talked about, which I'm very interested to see. You have Kim Leonard as a starting defensive end. Can he make an impact in this game after what I believe was but I don't even want to say underwhelming, but he didn't produce at a high level this season. So can he bounce back to that? And you have something like Heinrich Harburg at tight end. So there's a bunch of interesting kind of roster subplots for this game. I'm really kind of interested in watching, Lloyd fill in for Nayer. I mean, I'm not arguing this at all. Some thought that Lloyd should have been playing over Nayer at some points this season. So I'm curious to see what he can do, in a starting role. And then, when you look at, you have Vincent Shavers Jr. at the linebacker position, like we talked about. You have, MJ Sherman, but also Willis McGahee at the jack position. So, I mean, you do have a lot of names that you wouldn't normally see, or at least you didn't see, in big roles last year. So, between John Butler having the role of defensive coordinator and some of these younger, players playing, I know people want to say, oh, this is a pointless game. It's the Pinstripe Bowl, blah, blah, blah. I mean, this could set the tone for next season in many ways.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. And it's, I've talked about trying to get a winning season and all that, but just getting that confidence of knowing and learning how to win, I think will be important. And I think this is a big game for Dylan Raiola, and I want to see him play well. I think if he, some people kind of, mocked me a little bit there because I wrote, if he plays well, Nebraska's going to win this game. And I just think that that's true. And if he does, Nebraska can win this game if he, maybe has a game like Iowa, but doesn't turn it over. They could win if they play really well on defense. But if he comes out and he plays like he did against Wisconsin, like Nebraska's going to win this game by double digits. That's my opinion. And yeah, obviously that's going to take the offensive line pass blocking well and run blocking well and all that type of stuff, but to me, Dylan Raiola is the key. And on the other side of it, Boston College, they've got a man, Donovan Izeraku. I'm sure I pronounced that wrong. I'm the king.
Well, that's how I did, but I'm sure I pronounced it wrong as well. So,
but man, talk about a producer, 21 tackles for loss, 16.5 sacks, ACC Defensive Player of the Year. So this guy's going to be a problem for Nebraska. They have to kind of hem him in. But one thing, if you look at Boston College, yes, he's got 16.5 sacks. They've got 30 as a team. So it's not like they've got a ton of other pass rushers there. So if they can just kind of, chip him, keep him away and hopefully, not allow him to wreck the game, then I think that the rest of the offensive line should be able to hold up pretty well. And if they can do that, I think, Dylan should have a pretty good chance to have a successful day. I mean, Boston College, they do have a pretty good pass defense, though, 246 yards allowed, excuse me. So, I mean, that's pretty, that should be something Nebraska should be able to take advantage of. And especially, like I said, if they can protect, Raiola. So the offensive line will be key, as Nebraska fans always like to talk about, and they've got to be able to run the ball. But, looking at those numbers, Nebraska should be able to take advantage. And if Raiola has time, I think we could see a Wisconsin type of performance from him.
One player at corner, slated for Saturday is Malcolm Hartzog Jr. And I don't want to talk badly about Malcolm Hartzog Jr., but I'm more interested to see a guy like Amari Sanders. Even he's second, about right behind Hartzog on the depth chart. But I'm wondering how much you'll see a guys like Amari Sanders on Saturday too, because truthfully, I don't think Hartzog should be playing corner, but that's just me. But yeah, I know.
I think he could. I think he can play slot corner.
Okay. Yeah, slot works. Yeah. But I don't know.
I don't want him lined up outside all the. Yeah, that's a tough matchup for him, just because size wise, and we saw that with Deuce Robinson. That's just.
Yeah, I was going to say the USC game. Yeah,
even though the size had nothing to do with it, went right through his hands. Still should have. But but still a tough matchup.
No, it is a tough matchup. I mean, Deuce Robinson is an electric playmaker. So, I am very interested to see. What this game can, we talked about the storylines just now, but what other storylines are going to emerge that we're missing? What other storylines are going to occur that, we may not necessarily expect, because I think there's a lot of good to come out of this game. I think we're going to be able to feel confident in several aspects about the team moving forward, because between the transfer portal and just the seniors leaving, this is going to look like an entirely different roster next season. So,
and it's going to be, I'm interested to see how the cornerbacks hold up against, Lewis Bond and my guy Reed Harris from Great Falls, Montana, averaging 30 yards per reception. So he's been getting deep against everybody over the last month of the season. So cannot allow him to have like a 50-yard play. They do have a different quarterback, Grayson James, but he's been playing down the stretch and got them kind of where they're at right now. 6 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Because I believe they won 3 out of their last 4 to make a bowl.
They did, yep.
So Boston College playing well right now, and they're going to be, they're in a similar situation. They're in year 1 under Bill O'Brien, so they're also looking to springboard into ACC contention, like Nebraska's looking to contend, in the Big Ten next year. So I'm excited about this game. What's your prediction, man? We got Nebraska as a 2.5 point favorite right now. That was the line last I checked. I haven't checked since like yesterday, but But assuming that that's the line, I'm double checking right now as I'm trying to bring it up on my phone. But what's your prediction for Boston College, Nebraska on Saturday?
Ooh,
4 points. Nebraska's a 4-point favorite now.
I think it's going to be a close game. I don't think we're going to blow out Boston College by any means. I'm going to say Boston College 20, Nebraska 27. And I know I did that backwards and probably scared a lot of you, but no, I think it's going to be a close game. I really do. This Boston College team is tough. They're not going to lay down. And, I'm curious to see how these new pieces will, on Nebraska's end, how these new pieces will kind of respond and, show out. I think it's going to be a fun game. If we lose this game, obviously we want to win. But for me, it's about getting, those younger players extra reps and a chance to work in a game-like setting with defensive coordinator John Butler. So if they win, I'll be ecstatic. But if they don't win, I'll take solace in knowing that they're building for the future.
If they lose, I'm just going to be really, every time I see that 6 and 7, it's just going to really annoy me. So I just really need them to win I just want a winning season, man. It's that much to ask. I just want one winning season. Well, I want more than that. But,
I mean, it is a lot to ask, honestly, for Nebraska. It has been, yeah.
But I do agree with you, though, in the same margin. I'm going to go a slightly different score, 31-24. My bold prediction, Dylan Raiola throws for 300 yards on Saturday against Boston College, I think, after, kind of this few weeks with Holgerson's offense, and I think it's going to work at a much higher level. Players will be more comfortable, and I just think we'll see this offense score 30 points in a non-conference game against like a power opponent, really for the first time. I mean, Holgerson got him to 30 points against Wisconsin in that game, but it would be nice to see him do it against Boston College. I think they will. 31-24 is my prediction, and yeah, I'm excited to see all of these young guys hopefully ball out tomorrow, which it's crazy to me that it's already tomorrow on Saturday. So
it's crazy to me that we're talking about a bowl game and it seems like we just started yesterday against UTEP. So
yeah, it is. So at any rate, let's shift gears now here as we wrap up the show to the Diamond Head Classic. Nebraska winning their first tournament, I think, since the year 2000. I think I saw.
Yep.
And yeah, I mean, it was things were a little interesting against Hawaii on in the semifinal round, but Bryce Williams with a 31-point effort and then followed it up with 25 points. And really, Nebraska's kind of been the media darling of college basketball Twitter or social media. Andy Katz has shouted them out. And 2 weeks ago, we had him 16th in the Big Ten Power Rankings. Now he's saying that he believes they'll be a tournament team.
How quickly things change.
Yeah, how the turntables have turned.
Right.
Dan Dockich was talking up Sam Hoiberg and the entire team, Bryce Williams, John Rothstein. So really, and Nebraska coming into this tournament was, in the ESPN bracketology, was among the last 4 teams out. So I would believe they'll be projected in. The thing about Oregon State is now that we beat them, they dropped out of the top 50. So it's technically a quad 2 win now, but it's still yeah, that's kind of the annoying thing about the NET rankings, but it's still a quality win by double digits away from home. So even if it's not technically a quad 1 at the end of the season, it's still going to help on the resume, and it could be a quad 1 still.
2 quality wins away from home,
and by double digits.
Yeah. How many quad 1, like not to get too far down this rabbit hole, but how many quad 1 wins do we have? Because I don't know if Creighton's a quad 1 win anymore either. Are they?
I think it is. I think just Creighton right now would be it. So, which I mean, last year I think Nebraska had 3 or 4. So they're gonna have to get a couple in the Big Ten, but there'll be plenty of opportunities. I mean, I think almost every single conference game, like on the road, is going to be a quad 1 opportunity. I think Minnesota's the only team right now that's ranked outside like the top 80. So if you play a team top 75 on the road, it's quad 1. So it's going to be interesting. Nebraska's 1-1. I feel like they have to get to 11 wins. I feel like 10-10 is not quite enough. I feel like they gotta go basically 10-8 over this last 18 games in the Big Ten, which I think is very doable. I haven't looked at the schedule, but I think this team is trending in the right direction.
And you mentioned something very important to me anyway. They won away from home, and that was something that they really, really struggled with last year. So the fact that, they were able to win on the road, Berkey Boykatensil really played well in the final against Oregon State. I thought he had his best game as a Husker. We got to see his shooting ability. We got to see him really kind of fill up the stat sheet, so that was encouraging to see. We got to see a lot of Connor Esigan. We got to see the Bryce Williams show. I mean, Bryce has been absolutely fantastic this season. And we're starting to see, I know it's a little bit easier in college basketball. And I know you build a lot of the rosters through the transfer portal in college basketball, but Fred Hoiberg's hit rate or success rate, whatever you want to call it, has been really impressive over the last couple seasons. And he's been able to build another roster that I believe is ready for Big Ten play. I think that Michigan State game a couple weeks back was an anomaly. And I also think it woke them up and kind of, made them recognize that they need to play a little bit better basketball. And they have been.
Yeah, they have been. They got the win over Indiana since then. And yeah, I mean, you're going to have ugly games, and it is not getting blown out at the Breslin Center is not,
No.
It's nothing to be ashamed about. It happens. It's not, I'm not happy about it. They're not happy about it, but they've responded really well. And Bryce Williams, man, 19 points per game he's averaging. Like, this guy is playing like a first team all Big Ten player. And, if he plays like this for the rest of the season, like, he'll be in conversation for Big Ten player of the year.
Yep.
I mean, like that's how good this dude is playing right now. It's unbelievable. His 3-point percentage, 43%. He's shooting 54% from the field. He's making, let me see here, 1.6 3-pointers per game. He's basically 91% from the free throw line. So he's shooting 91, 43, 51. That's insane. That is insane. He's going to get drafted, like, playing like this. So,
yeah.
And he's 6'7". He can handle the ball. He can guard 3 positions. Like, if he keeps playing like this, like, he could be in conversation for like first round pick range, because I mean, like, that's exactly what NBA teams are looking for right now. So I'm really excited about him, and I just can't wait for Big Ten play to get started again.
Yeah, Big Ten play is going to be something special, and Connor Esigan, he played well against Murray State. He struggled kind of in the last 2 games, and when Connor Esigan struggles, you kind of wonder where the scoring is going to come from. Well, now you have Bryce Williams really playing at a high level, and others playing at a high level. Like, if we can get Berkey rolling to where he's consistent like he was against Oregon State, then that just adds a whole other dimension to this team. I like the fact that Berkey was aggressive, and he kind of played like the player that I thought we were going to get consistently when he came in here. So that was really good to see. And if this team can get rolling on all cylinders even more at a higher level, then they're going to be difficult to stop.
Yeah, I mean, Berkey was shooting 21% from 3, hit 3 threes in that game. So that was really great to see. Definitely was his best game. Andrew Morgan had a great game in this tournament. Sam Hoiberg did what he does. Juwan Gary's been playing well. So everything's kind of clicking right now into place for Nebraska. So a lot to be excited about there. The women's team still playing well also.
Mm-hmm.
They did lose recently to Georgia Tech, who's a top 25 team, but only 2 losses this year to Creighton and Georgia Tech, both teams that are ranked right now. So they're number 8 seed in the tournament projections. So both teams trending towards the tournament again. So it's going to be fun to kind of watch that progress over the next few weeks. So we'll wrap it up there, you guys. We'll be back on Monday. We will wrap up the Pinstripe Bowl, any other transfer portal talk, and go from there and look ahead to what's going to be an important offseason for Nebraska football as they try to really get this thing cranked up in 2025. So thanks again for checking out this video. Please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Get into the comment section. Hope you had a great Christmas, and as always, go Big Red.
Go Big Red.